Hi, I'm James Page here for ECOC TV. Very pleased to say that Lightcounting's chief analyst, Stephane Teral, is with me. Stephane, we've just been talking about why everyone's talking about 5G, but you don't believe we're even really in a 4G world. In fact, you called it a fake 5G. Why is that?
Well, it's because today, 5G is just delivering a little improvement on top of what we already have, which is LTE, long-term evolution, because we don't have the real 4G everywhere yet, as you saw in my charts. And that's why, but this is the beginning of 5G. We have to be patient. It was the same way with LTE and eventually moving into 4G. But that's the reality. We have seen lots of similar movies before at the beginning of LTE. People, and particularly in the US, with very misleading commercials, advertising something as 4G that in fact was 3.5G. So you have some consumers, who believe that and are going to get a device and then discover that, oops, it doesn't work that way, and it doesn't do the job that they thought it should be doing. So this is the world we live in. We're going to have to be patient until we hit the real 5G. But having said that, it's also worth remembering that the whole concept of 5G is to connect many things. However, since we're at the beginning, it's just starting with us, the humans, playing with smartphones or other types of mobile device and trying to use as much capacities by using applications and trying to, be satisfied. So 5G is bringing some improvement to some of the services we had before, however, not everywhere. So this is the beginning, but in 5 years we'll see more connected things through 5G, and that will be the real 5G. That will be the materialization of the promise of what 5G is supposed to be.
Thank you. Yes, understood. So crucial to getting to that real 5G is backhaul, and there are several different ways of doing that. But there's one in particular that you focused on in your talk.
Yes, the integrated access and backhaul. This is not a new concept. It was driven by Ericsson 10 years ago at this point, and could have been used actually in the long-term evolution network / 4G. However, there was not enough spectrum to make it worth it. I should also talk a little bit about what it is. So it is using wireless to transport the traffic where it has to go, because a lot of people forget that from your device to the antenna, it's in the air, and they think it's in the air everywhere. It's not. When you hit the antenna, you have to use something, a mechanism, a media, to transport the traffic that is going to the antenna, and vice versa. And the wireless backhaul, and particularly in that integrated access backhaul, you use the same antenna for both, for the send and receive between the mobile device and the radio unit, and also you want to use that same radio unit to send the traffic collected from the device to another radio unit, and so on until it goes to a fixed network. So this is a nice way to save costs and improve efficiencies, particularly at a moment we are trying to build more capacity by adding more antennas. And if you think about doing the backhauling of all the antennas we are adding in a traditional way, it's going to be very expensive. And that's why IAB is a very nice option. On top of it, now we have the spectrum, a very specific 5G spectrum in the millimeter wave domain, where you can enable IAB in a way we could not have done before.
I see. And you mentioned in your talk that Japan seems to be ahead of the game, ahead of the rest of the world in terms of its 5G development. What are they doing, or what do they have that the rest of the world doesn't yet?
Well, I mean, number one, the government in 2018 decided to add a fourth player, because Japan is a place in the world, with actually North America, where the communication services are the most expensive. So the Prime Minister Abe-san was like, this has to stop. So let's introduce a fourth player. Let's do like France. And by doing so, he also wanted to have a very special player. Let's not redo things the way we have been doing so far. So it's to some extent there are similarities with Free in France. So you have a billionaire, Mirikatini-san, who said, "Hey, I want to play." This is actually the equivalent of the Jeff Bezos Amazon. So Rakuten is the equivalent of the Amazon. It's a Japanese Amazon, so plenty of money. I want the fourth license, and I want to bring with me pioneers who are not afraid of venturing into the implementation of brand new technologies, because the technologies are very well documented, but moving from paper to reality, that is a very different thing. And thinking of that, he looked at Reliance Jio, a really big challenger in India. But he said, okay, the way they deploy the network is very cool, but somehow obsolete. So let's look at what we can do, the improvements from these architectures. And that's how he brought the Reliance Jio team on board, who had demonstrated that they could deploy a network in record times using advanced architectures. And they designed a network and said, on paper, and said, we're going to make it work no matter what it takes. So let's not be afraid. This is the first network of this type in the world, using virtual radio access networks, plus open interfaces, cloud network functions in the cloud already, from day one. So this is unseen, and this is very new, very revolutionary, and setting the pace for the future, because the world is looking at this architecture. So now what we need to see is actually the commercial success, how much customers they are getting on that very interesting platform.
Well, yes, let's hope they do, and let's hope the rest of the world is taking note. I'm sure they are, so that in the future we can manage to see the full potential of 5G. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to explain that to us, and I hope you're enjoying your conference.
Yes, I truly do. I love it. Yeah, it's so nice to be in person again.